Good morning, everybody. How are you? How are you guys doing? I hope that you're doing well. Happy Wednesday. It's 10 o'clock, a little bit later. I'm sorry I'm a little late. Yeah, so today I'm coming here because I want to talk about inflammation and autoimmune. Um, it's something that I had to learn to really understand in order to more actively, pursue strategies and tools that will actually help my inflammation to come down. So we'll be talking about what inflammation in autoimmune actually means. And then I'll be giving you two areas in your body that you really need to focus on in order to decrease the ongoing inflammation. Um, Whoever is joining me live, please give me a wave, give me a hello. If you are catching this in the replay, hashtag replay. And if you have any questions, any concerns, or any feedback, comments, plop them in the comments here under the video, or just send me a message. I'm always happy to hear from you guys, to hear how this resonates with you. If you took just one little thing out of this session, that'll help you to improve. So I'll also go live here on my Instagram. Hold on. Let me do that here so we can get started. Okay, I should have done that prior. I apologize. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Okay. All right, so we're good to go. Just waiting for a few more people to hop on here. So welcome everybody. Yes, inflammation, it's a big topic. It is honestly such a big word, and sometimes we don't really understand what inflammation means, how it shows up in our autoimmune bodies, because inflammation can mean many things. And to be quite honest, inflammation necessarily does not mean it's a bad thing, right? Because inflammation in itself is something that the body has created to keep us safe. It's a defense system that our body has created for us. However, when this defense system gets off track and we are actually not being able to put the brakes on it anymore, then that is when we're experiencing issues, when we're seeing the trouble in autoimmune. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what autoimmune is in our autoimmune bodies and how it shows. And actually, I'm going to be tying in a couple of areas that you will have to focus on for you guys to decrease inflammation. But first, let's understand what inflammation is, right? So, inflammation in itself, like I said before, is a defense system that your body has created. Your body has that immune response in place to keep you safe. How does your body do that? Your body has created that immune system, the innate, so the general immune system, as well as the adaptive immune system, the specialized immune system. So it's critical to understand that you have two different branches of immune system in happening in your body that try to keep you safe. The immune system is a defense system to really protect you from invaders and honestly also unwanted toxins. So there's a lot of toxins coming in our way, whether it's the environment, whether it's the food that we're eating sometimes has a lot of pesticides, fungicides, all of these things on it. And we are daily bombarded with stuff that just doesn't belong in our bodies. So if we were to just, have nothing in place, honestly, we would not be able to live very long, right? And so this system, that immune system, has many parts, but the one of the biggest parts, of course, is your white blood cells, and includes the white blood cells. That what they do is they send out sensors to check for the presence of invaders in your body. That's what it does. So you have those white blood cells, and they're critically important for you because they actually send out those sensors. And what are they? They're called antibodies. They're called antibodies or also immunoglobulins. And so your system checks for invaders all the time, and which is great because if there's something coming in that is really disrupting your ecosystem, your white blood cells are then sending messages to your brain and back and forth and saying, listen, there's something going on. We need more of this. And then they come and then they engulf those toxins and they chew them up and they neutralize them and then they expose them, which is great. Like I said, if we didn't have that in place, you would probably wouldn't be alive for as long as you have, right? Another thing that I was gonna draw your attention to is the thymus, right? So we have this wonderful gland in our bodies where the thymus we don't talk about much, but it's so critically important because the thymus is really that place. It's like a school for your white blood cells where the white blood cells are being specialized. So they're being specialized, and they every white blood cells is like everybody becomes their own agent to do something specific in the body. And so our thymus is super active in when we are young, but it kind of loses its function when we grow older. And why do I bring up the thymus in here? In to tie that in with inflammation, autoimmune, is that the thymus is innervated by the vagus nerve. So your vagus nerve is a large nerve, the largest nerve in your body that actually has a big function in also sending messages to those organs in order to, halt production or in order to spark production or function. And so with the thymus is that it's innervated by that vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve, the sympathetic fibers, so the stress response can actually really hinder the thymus to do its job properly. So I'm just saying that because that really clarifies to the one area that we have to think about when we think about inflammation and autoimmune, which is stress, right? And I'm not just saying that because we all know that stress is bad for us, but I'm just sharing that with you so that you understand that the stress response in our bodies is real. So there's a real physiological response that happens when we are experiencing certain levels of stress that can honestly, hinder some certain functions and also, like specializing your white blood cells, your immune system. So your immune system is starting to, I wouldn't say become compromised, but being affected if you have been experiencing a lot of stress in your earlier lives in as children or young adults. So that is just something to also keep in mind, right? And that this has something critically to do with how inflammation shows up for us. So talking about that, I would like to kind of like give you those two areas of where we can make massive changes in our bodies in order to bring down inflammation with an autoimmune. So I'm tying the vagus nerve in because to raise the awareness that stress is definitely something that we will have to work on. Stress is something that we'll have to work on. It has to become a day-to-day job for us to manage our stressors because they can just trigger so many physiological responses in your body that can really increase your inflammation in your body. So, the vagus nerve is really what keeps your immune cells in check, right? So, the vagus nerve is something that pumps the brakes. So, remember what I said in the beginning with inflammation is that inflammation is part of your system to keep you safe, to keep those invaders out, to keep you in a good place. But if this immune system is being activated, and the other part of it that is just as important, which is the brake system, right? So your body has certain pathways in place in order to put the brakes on the inflammation, because once the inflammation has been dealt with, once the invader has been dealt with, everything should be going back to normal. So we need some sort of feedback system in the body that tells our body, okay, the threat is over now. I'm going to go back to normal. And the vagus nerve also here has a huge role to play. So, which is the parasympathetic fibers of the vagus nerve, right? So, the parasympathetic means rest and digest. So, keeping that in mind and understanding that regardless of what type of stressors you are experiencing in your life, there's always the state of being after the stress response, which we will have to actively support. We'll have to understand that we need that down regulation after a stress response in order to activate our vagus nerve so that the inflammation can be reduced and the brakes are being put on that immune response. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I just really wanted to, clarify that a little bit in order to understand how important stress response really is in our bodies and what we have to do in order to decrease that. So we definitely have to work on vagus nerve activation. And this is really something that I'm actually talking about in my group this week. We talk a lot about vagus nerve deactivation and toning because it's so critically important. So, yeah. The other thing is the other part I wanted to tie in here with inflammation on immune is the second or number one or first or second biggest area where you can make the most impact in order to bring down that inflammation, that chronic response to invaders and pathogens. And also, mind you, those pathogens and invaders that your body is sensing at this point might not be even real invaders. Because if you're experiencing food sensitivities, that is not something that your body is trying to protect you from. Your body, and at this moment in time, has lost its sensitivity, has lost its way of identifying bad from good. And so it is starting to, attack cells in your body, but it's also starting to attack food molecules that are coming into your bloodstream. And it's not the food's fault, right? So it's your gut's fault. So let's talk about gut health because gut health is something that is critically important for inflammatory responses. So the number one thing I want to say here is that remember how I said the white blood cells are being trained in the thymus and then they're being sent out to various locations in the body in order to keep you safe. Well, one of the largest areas of where you are actually hosting the largest amount of white blood cells or your immune cells is actually on the gut lining. It's incredible. There is a whole, there's millions, trillions of those white blood cells stationed along your gut lining. And that makes sense, right? It makes sense because your gut is actually the outside because when you're eating and when you're breathing and when you're ingesting something that goes into the tube of your GI tract, it has not gone through the gut lining. It has not been absorbed yet into your bloodstream, where it then can cause a reaction of your immune system. It is still in the outside, right? So it needs to cross this lining. It needs to cross that gateway into your bloodstream for it to become, a hazard to you, right? So if we ingest a toxin, and as long as it stays in our GI tract, it doesn't do us any harm. But as soon as it crosses that gut lining and gets into your bloodstream, this is where the danger then occurs, and this is where your immune system is starting to react. So you have those defensive cells, the white blood cells, stationed all along your gut lining in order to detect and proactively even neutralize and also send messages to your brain that there's something going on and you need some specific agents, specialized forces to come in to deal with that threat. And so Um, that is why gut health is critically important if you want to make a massive impact on bringing down your inflammation in autoimmune. This is why we can really leverage that information and say, wow, I now know that there's so much assault happening because of the nature of your gut that I can really understand where things go off track. So, and gut is a huge area to work on. There's so many things that can go wrong in the gut. But if you are experiencing issues like bloating and constipation and stomach aches and acid reflux and all of these imbalances, you already know that something is off because you should not be feeling that way. Right. And so you know that your gut is already under that is it's in a suboptimal environment. So hone in on your gut health. Make sure that your gut lining is intact. Make sure that your food sensitivities are being addressed because the food sensitivities are a direct link to gut lining issues and your immune system having gone off track, which happens in autoimmune. So really make sure that you're honing in on the gut, um, get the information that you need in order to um, do some work on gut repair and restoration. And if that means that you will have to become aware of what is causing you symptoms at this moment in time first, such as starting a food diary and really connecting certain GI issues with certain foods that you're ingesting, that might be the first step that you will have to take in order to raise the awareness of what is currently not benefiting you, what is increasing the inflammation, the inflammatory process, the immune response in your body. Because the goal is with autoimmune to decrease that, that the inflammatory processes in your body, which requires gut health. It requires gut healing. And so do that. Lots of anti-inflammatory foods. Work with a practitioner who knows what they're doing in terms of repair and restore of your gut lining, which is really, really critical in getting autoimmune inflammation under control. And then, like I said before, tie in the stress part of it. So the vagus nerve connection that, by the way, also innervates your gut lining. It's crazy is really, really important to address. So make sure that you have good strategies and tools in place to bring down, to go through the stress response in a way that that brings down your nervous system after your stress response. Do not fall into the trap of being chronically stressed. If you're being chronically stressed and spread too far and you don't have any breathing anymore that you can do in between tasks and life and all these things, it's not a good place to be. Your body will not be able to reduce that inflammation for you. So I hope this was helpful for you guys to get a little bit more insight on inflammation, autoimmune, and the two areas where you really have to hone in on and focus on in order to decrease that inflammation. If you guys want to learn more about this kind of stuff, I am hosting my challenge. I can only recommend to you guys to join me for my challenge on March 28th. So I'll be giving you 4 days of mastermind classes. I will be giving you homework. Yes, I will be giving you stuff to implement. And we're going to be talking about these things. We're going to be talking on day one. We're going to be talking about gut health. I'm going to give you a vast amount of information on what you can do to put in place right away. We're going to be talking about navigating stress response. We're going to be talking about how do I eliminate those toxins because your body has elimination pathways in place that you can support daily in order to help your body eliminate those toxins to lower, soothe inflammation. And we're going to be talking about mindset and how our negative thought patterns can really, can really hinder you from achieving um, from gaining the results that you're looking for in all of your steps that you're taking. It can really override that, the effects of what you're putting into place. So join me for the challenge on the 28th. It's going to be run inside this group. It's going to be run on Instagram. I will be sending on workbooks. I'll be sending on recipes. It's going to be a great event. I'm super excited for that. So if you want to sign up, let me know in the DMs or send me a message on Facebook or just post it in the comments. I'll get you signed up. And I hope this was helpful for you guys. And I will see you again very soon.